Kent, buddy, got an espresso.
Oh, thank you. You read my mind.
Kent, wow, multiple decades with La Marzocco throughout the years. Former CEO, member of the board. Can you tell us more about the beginnings and the story that kind of led you up into this point now, sitting in your beautiful museum with your history with La Marzocco? Kind of tell us your journey that you have been on.
Wow, thanks, Dave. Well, I got out of college and I ended up working at a hamburger stand. Through that series of events, made friends with part of the family that owned it, and we decided that we could do this too, that we were young and smart and we could open our own restaurant. I learned through that experience how challenging the restaurant business is, and especially also cafes as well. But we acquired a defunct soup and sandwich shop down in Pioneer Square, the old part of Seattle, that had an espresso machine in it. So that was the first time I'd seen an espresso machine that I at least recognized what it was. And I didn't know anything about coffee or how to brew it. And so that started sort of the tinkering and learning about it, which segued into a person that came along to be a business partner, and they said, well, if you can work on a machine, we should import it. I mean, after I had visited a few cafes in town and pretended to be an espresso technician and tried to learn something about the machines of the day. So we decided to go to Italy. This was the 70s, and it was like, groovy, man, far out. Let's go to Europe. And that was, we showed up, Asa and Barbara and I, my partners at the time, showed up in Italy looking like a bunch of hippies.
Does that mean full tie-dye, bell-bottom jeans?
Kinda, you know, I mean, it was an interesting time to go there.
Tell me about your thoughts when you first saw you roll up into Italy and you see La Marzocco factory. Can you tell us your initial first thoughts, or do you remember like feelings or memories from that time when you first kind of walked up to the old factory?
It was, a pivotal experience. Not sure I realized at the time, we knew that we were on an adventure and we're going to places that we'd never been and meeting people that we didn't know existed. It was a very small, intimate workshop. And meeting Piero and his father and his uncle and the other people in there. I mean, there was probably 10 people working on the factory floor. Looking around and seeing how they did things, it was all so different than any other equipment that I've seen. So it was like being a kid in a candy shop. It took about a year to sell the first machine. Got out of the restaurant business. I was not very good at that, even though I liked it, and thought I'd work on espresso machines for a while. And 6 months turned into 6 years. It turned into a whole career.
Was there any type of conversation around, yo man, what's this coffee thing all about? Or was it all pretty straightforward for you in terms of memories with family, friends, this non-existent scene?
So my father probably said one of those classic things, if it was such a good idea, somebody would have already done it. Now, even though he was an entrepreneur himself, sometimes that came up. But he was supportive, even if he didn't understand what it was that I was doing. And then I got into it for a few years, and I just thought, espresso machines in Italy, I just felt it was like the coolest thing I could do. And I would tell people, I work with espresso coffee machines, and they'd look at me and they go like, you can't get a real job? It's true. It's true.
Is there a memorable espresso from your early times? First time in Hibble and Hyde, getting your machine hot, trying an espresso? Is it Italy, walking up to an espresso bar?
Well, there's a famous coffee bar in Venice called the Cafe Florian. And it's one of the oldest coffee houses in Europe. So that was kind of a special, unique. I feel blessed that I've been able to go to many parts of the world and being connected through my La Marzocco connection. And I like having coffee with you, Dave.
Stop, Ken.
I don't know if I ever made very much good espresso at Hibble and Hyde's. I had a lot to learn.
Can you teach us how to order a proper espresso from an Italian bar?
You can either say un espresso or un caffè, per favore. You have to say please.
So that begs the question, a man that could have all espresso machines, what espresso machine do you have in your house?
We have a Linea Mini.
Oh, okay. Could you tell us kind of the early days of home espresso?
The sort of the dream and the idea was that wouldn't it be great to have a really high quality commercial grade espresso machine that you could have and use at home. You know, it's one thing when you grow up in Italy, everybody knows how to make espresso. They make it at home since they're a kid, but we don't have that. We didn't have that culture. That was the start, and you know, we watched things over the years, and even for 30 years, there was never anything that really hit the mark that I felt. And so the GS3 was spawned out of that.
One of my favorite memories of you is going over to your kitchen and trying to figure out a new style mocha pot. And we're both like, how do we use this thing? And so I think we both were just kind of tinkering on the idea of like, what is something maybe more modern than a traditional mocha pot and how does it work? What are you tinkering with now that you're excited about?
The idea for the museum or the collection was, I just think, oh, there's cool old machines, interesting designs, and kind of preserving that history. But until we started working on some of these machines, I thought anything before a lever machine was really simple and I get how it works. But as we've been starting to actually put some of these machines operational and looking at how they're designed and made, it's become more like historical forensics around coffee. How do these things really work? And I've realized there's a lot to learn about what came before the lever machine and discovering what coffee was like. What made it so popular? I mean, people say, oh, these old machines didn't make good coffee, but you don't establish a whole popular method of brewing, referring to espresso coffee, if it's not any good, I don't think. I feel like I'm constantly having to rethink what I thought I knew. So that's the fascinating and frustrating thing about coffee is you're never quite 100% in control of what happens.
All right, well, thanks, Kent. I think it's your time to make me an espresso now.
Dave, let's go.
Let's go. Please don't talk about me when I'm gone. Oh, honey, though our friendship ceases from